outside of this program. So thank you all for joining us this morning. I did want to let you know that the three of us who are coordinating or presenting this morning, I'm Mia Olson, I'm with VPAS. Sarah Morton is with Blue Ridge Legal Services. She's an elderly services attorney. And Natalie Reinica, I got it. Natalie is a patient advocate nurse at Centera RMH. So thank you all for being here. We are going to go about an hour. I encourage you to put questions in the chat and we'll circle back to them as we can a little bit, or as we take a break in between Natalie and Sarah presenting, we will take time for questions at that point too. So I think all of us are socially distanced, so we're not going to worry about masks this morning and those sorts of things. We all love to wear the masks, I'm sure. Yes, we all have ours. Mine's somewhere here. But we're kind of glad to be free of those for just the next few minutes at least. So this presentation is talking about getting our ducks in a row. It's often not something you want to think about, but this gives you the ability to make decisions for later in life, for situations that come up that you may or may not be able to process at the time. So we've got a medical point of view and we've got an attorney point of view. And I think we're going to start with Natalie. So Natalie, I'm going to kick it off and let you share from here.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. As Mia shared, my name is Natalie Reinica. I'm the patient advocate here at the hospital. I want to stand one note of correction. I'm not a nurse. I always approach things non-clinical. Most everything that I've learned and the education that we've received has been non-clinical in this end. We need a lot of doctor and nursing expertise when it comes to when to use these documents and when they click in. The hospital has a standard form that we hand out. It's not the only tool that can be used. You're welcome to go to Sarah and her team or go to another attorney to pull up offline anything, a document that you feel like is better suited to your needs. We have populations of folks here in the community that have certain types of advanced directive forms. The Jehovah's Witness, there is a form specific for that population of faith worshipers, and so we like to keep a nice variety here at the hospital. What we use is just a standard form. It's called Let's Talk document, and they're available throughout the hospital. If you come into the hospital and you get admitted, we have a process that we ask you, do you have an advanced care plan? Do you have one prepared from anywhere or one from 10 years ago or current? If you say yes, we promise not to ask you multiple times about this. If you say no, then we have triggers in the computer system that shoots an email to our chaplain's office and to myself that say, this person wants more information about an advanced care plan. We then try to make a visit to you during your hospital stay. Currently, most of this is routed through the chaplain's office, but with the new COVID regulations, they use a lot of trained volunteers and they're not able to come into the hospital currently. So Robin and myself, we're trying to be sure that we at least acknowledge the people who ask for our assistance. So the form that we have set up as a questions and answer type of form, a booklet, not a form, a booklet, and we pulled it together with corporate and with Virginia regulations to say what are the most common things that are asked when someone looks into completing an advanced care directive for themselves. And I think that's the important piece that sometimes families forget, that the advanced care plan is you plan this for yourself. Your power of attorney for finances can't do this for you. Your spouse cannot do this for you. You as the person filling this out needs to be able to sign this and understand what they're signing. So when someone comes to the door and says, I want to do this for my mother, she just went to a nursing home. Can she talk to us? Is she able to complete this herself? And they'll say, yes, but I always do her paperwork. Mom still has to be able to, You can fill it out for them, but she has to be able to sign this and understand what she's signing. The form itself is in the center of the booklet, and it talks about who do you want to make these primary decisions for you. So you can name your spouse and your oldest child. It gives you 2 opportunities on the documents that we have. If you're not sure and you leave that piece empty or blank, then we'll go by state law that says this is who we can talk to and help make decisions. We call it a hierarchy of decision making, and it goes to your spouse. If there is no spouse of the living, then we go to your children. If there's no children, we go to parents, siblings, cousins. I mean, there is, like I said, a hierarchy of a listing of people that we seek after to say who legally, since there was no one named, can make decisions for this person. There are times we have to go to the court and have someone appointed. Sometimes a friend will say, well, he drinks coffee at McDonald's every morning, and we talk about this. I can't imagine talking about end-of-life decisions or medical care decisions over coffee, but things come up and things happen in your own family that brings attention to the issue that then make it a more casual conversation than a decision at the bedside. And to plug that, that's really the best time to do it with your friends and family, not at the hospital when someone's been given a new diagnosis, or yes, you are going to a healthcare facility. What's next? What do? We need this paperwork because everybody keeps asking for it. And then you kind of make decisions based on that moment and not decisions that you have time to sit down and think about. Sarah or Mia, can we share the forms that I sent you? Is that an option? Do I do that? Please forgive me, y'all. This is the first Zoom I've done. So can I control that? Can I record up and down? So I don't want this page. Okay, we're not this page either. We'll do that last.
I'm sorry, Natalie, say that again.
We'll do this page last. So record down one more. Okay, this is the form that I was talking about, that you can name your agents, your medical power of attorneys, and just some information on them, general things, so you can record down. We go down to the bottom. The second piece of this that is in our booklet and in most legal documents is, do you wish to be an organ donor or an anatomical donor, which is a whole body? If you're registered as an anatomical donor, that comes from Richmond. So if you say, yes, I want to be a whole body donor, we have here numbers to reference you to, so that you can call the main office, because there are more forms to fill out and more consents to give to be a whole body donor. So this is, again, personal preference. What are you comfortable with? Some people are very easy answering this question. Some people really don't want to be a part of this, and that's fine. It's your preferences. So let's record down to the next page. Then here comes the thought-provoking question. We set up our document to give you scenarios to help you think through, what if I'm unconscious in a coma in a vegetative state and there's little or no chance of recovery? Do I want life-sustaining treatments? If you're not sure, I mean, that's okay too. Just be sure there is a conversation with your decision maker. And yes, I want life-sustaining. You want respirators, ventilators, dialysis, artificial feeding tubes. And the booklet helps define some of those appliances, the artificial means, the heroic measures, so to help you get a better understanding what's important to you. So the different scenarios, you can kind of go through and say yes or no, or you're not sure. And then underneath each of the statements is some blank lines, and they're there so that you can make this personal for you. You know, I want life supporting measures for 15 days. Please reassess, and we reassess daily, but to some folks, they put a day number. If I'm not better, I'm not alert, I'm not going to show improvement, or I'm not showing improvement, this is my wish. This is what I want or don't want. COVID has given us a new spin on advanced care planning and some added confusion. I had a gentleman yesterday who had his document, and he came in and wanted to know if he was tested positive for COVID, would we not give him a respirator? And it was very important for him to redo his advanced care plan and put a statement in there if during done, unless there's no chance of recovery. So this has come up in the last couple of months more than we ever thought it would, because we hadn't explored that with ourselves, that our community, that a person would stop and say, okay, if I have COVID, I want everything done. And this wouldn't kick in. We sought some opinions from our palliative care team to say, you know, help us give direction to our patients, help us give direction and thought processes to our folks that ask. So the additional instructions and preferences are there for you. What's important to you? What do you want? There are some other documents that are available through the Sentara process and through legal. I'm sure they may be called something else. The patient protest. This is another document that says, I'm going to protest all the treatments that you suggest. I'm going to protest medications. I'm going to protest because I know myself, and I know that I'm going to say I don't want anything ahead of time. We have found this usually used for a patient with some mental health issues. And so they get a form and know that they're going to come in saying, I don't want that injection, or I don't want that treatment plan. But they know once they are more clear, focused in their mind, they're going to be okay with that. So they sign this protest statement ahead of time. So when they have that and they come in, we're going to, even if they're yelling, no, 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 we're going to go ahead and do what they have directed us to do prior to this episode. The second one is for folks who have pregnancy in the future or are pregnant at the time, and it discusses if there comes a time when I may need to have directions about my own personal health and how that affects my unborn child. It gives you directions there also. So a little more tricky, a little more thought-provoking, because you're not only talking about one person, there's a second person involved. And then sometimes people just want to write extra notes. They just have extra processes they want us to go by. And so they initial that there's attached pages, so we know as healthcare providers, look for additional paperwork. Then the two places you need to sign it, the person filling this out signs it, puts today's date, and there needs to be 2 witnesses. So 2 folks that seen you sign this and feel comfortable that you were signing this of your own due will. It does not need to be notarized in the state of Virginia. Witnesses can be family members. That was a change that the state made, I'm going to say about 8 years ago. I may be wrong on that. 10 years, time flies. It used to be could not be family members. Now it can be family members. They wanted to make it easy for folks to fill this out at home when you have this casual discussion. So if your spouse and your next door neighbor wants to be the witness to this, that's fine. If your 2 children want to be a witness to this, that's fine. It's legally acceptable. And we accept the document that's signed by people that's on the front page. Caveat to that, a little sidebar. Often we encourage folks, if there are any kind of family dynamics going on, that maybe you want somebody to witness this that's not on the front page. If there are 2 children and there's 6 kids all together, so that they know that the 2 people in the front maybe didn't coerce you into doing this, that there's 2 independent people that watched you sign this and will sign their name to say, I've seen you do this, without them standing over you saying you have to, and that you have had time to ask questions. Now, back up to the top, Mia. Then after you do this, you have an opportunity. We will place this on file here in the hospital. We will scan it into our computer system, put it out into your medical record. If you see a physician that's Sentara based, he or she will have access to this information. If you come back into the hospital, we ask you the question, do you have an advance directive? You can say yes, it should be on file. And one more. And then if you travel, which many of us do, you can put this into a national registry. And we will send your advance directive to our corporate office, who then scans it into this national registry. And anywhere you go within the United States, they will ask you if you have an advance directive. If for some need you go to a hospital, you can say, yes, here's my card they sent me, and you're assigned a number. And they can go to their given, several of us here at the hospital have the number we can call and pull up your advanced care plan. So by signing this, you give whatever facility you're at permission to pull up your advanced care directive. It's kept in a separate area than your medical records, so they don't have access, or this doesn't give permission for them to pull up your medical records, but to pull up this document and print it off at the facility you're in. So if you do travels, we have people who live here 6 months and live in Florida 6 months. We have people who just roam the country and enjoy doing that they feel comfort that they have already prepared this document. States accept each other's state's documents. So if you're in Wyoming and you need the hospital, they'll say, oh, you're from Virginia. Virginia requirements are 2 signatures and patient signature. This is fine. We will accept that. Excuse me. There are a few states in the United States that require a notary. But if you're from a state that doesn't require that, they will accept your state document as a valid document. So sometimes we have a little work behind the scenes to do. If someone visits us who has an accident or comes in off of 81, that we do our due diligence to be, if they have the card, just to be sure it's valid and that it meets the requirements to make it a valid document. So fill out the 2 pages if you wish to do the registry, and just on the back of the booklets, we're happy to mail you booklets, or just call the hospital number and ask for advance directives. Then we'll get them scanned into your medical record from here. The back of the booklet actually has phone numbers for myself, for the chaplains, for the main hospital. If you want the booklet, like I said, call 689-1234 and we'll be happy to mail you 1 copy, 2 copies. I just sent out 10 copies. They were going to have a family dinner on Sunday, and we wanted 10 copies for everybody to have one. So that worked out great. Any questions? Are you going to wait till questions at the end, Mia? Or any quick questions about the medical advance directive?
Right. I think now is a great time to break and ask for questions. I don't see any in the chat room. Do you all have any questions that you would like to ask?
The number was 689-1234.
Yes, ma'am. That's straight to my office.
Thank you.
Yes, of course. And like I said, I share this responsibility less than the chaplains. The chaplains have the biggest role. And we do continuous education, so we're up on current guidelines and laws, and so we can do the best service to our community that we can.
Appreciate your input.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions?
And I'll just add too, usually when we finish the medical piece as an introduction to Sarah, people will say, okay, now let's talk about the finances. I want my son to sign my checks, or I want to name somebody to be able to do that. Can you help me with that? And the hospital's role is usually to say, we don't have the documents and we can't help you complete those. There are folks in the community that are very willing and knowledgeable to do that. If you need to come in, we will coordinate that. It's been a challenge with COVID again this year, because lots of times the notary will bring their witnesses with them. And if we say one visitor or two visitors, that has proven to be challenges. But we've worked through them all on a one-to-one basis. But hopefully soon all this will be over and we'll be able to go back to normal. But I'll let Sarah take over the financial piece. And I'm sure I'll learn something new after listening to her also.
Great. Well, thank you, Natalie, because I always love yours, but I hear yours, excuse me. So let me just go ahead and share my PowerPoint. Okay, my name is Sarah Morton. I'm the Elderly Services Attorney with Blue Ridge Legal Services. So it's my job to provide legal services free of charge to my clients, and I specialize in helping people who are 60 and over. If you're under that age and listening to this presentation, we do have other Blue Ridge attorneys that handle other age ranges. So just a quick disclaimer, this presentation covers the laws applicable in Virginia, and other states do vary. So if you're listening to this presentation from a different state, you want to get legal information specific to your state. No attorney-client relationship is created by listening to the presentation. If you want legal advice specific to your own case, please call Blue Ridge Legal Services or another attorney in your community. This presentation provides general legal information and not advice specific to your case. And if you're listening later on YouTube, please don't get legal advice off of YouTube. This is legal information. If you would like to apply for free legal services, you can call our Harrisonburg office at 540-433-1830. And for this type of case, we take new applications Mondays through Thursdays, 9 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. We do handle a variety of other legal issues, housing issues, public benefits issues, nursing home and assisted living discharge issues, many, many other types of cases. And you can also call if you have those sorts of legal problems. Anything that's a civil, meaning not criminal and not traffic, we generally help with it. We do focus our efforts on lower income clients who couldn't otherwise afford an attorney, so you will be asked to provide financial information, but we do have some limited funding to help folks that are more in the middle income brackets. So definitely call us if you're a senior and would like some help with any of the documents that are discussed. Just a quick outline of what I'm going to talk about today. I'm going to talk about why do you want to plan in advance for your finances, what are different financial options, power of attorney documents, the contrast with representative payee, and then I will briefly talk about wills and how they're different from what we're talking about today. So why plan ahead? The main reason you want to plan ahead is empowerment. If you plan ahead, then you're the person who makes decisions about who will help you with your finances, what sorts of choices that person can make, and you can avoid adult guardianship. We'll talk about that briefly because it's what a lot of folks want to avoid. Adult guardianship is a situation where you have not planned, often not planned either for your finances or your medical care and other decisions. There can be situations, if you have not planned, where your family would have to go to a judge and say, this person is no longer able to make any personal decisions for themselves. We need to appoint a decision maker. That is good if that is the situation your family is in. However, a lot of folks want to avoid that, and so the proper financial documents can be helpful. So first, we're going to talk about financial and practical preparedness, because there are different ways to manage your funds and your living situation without having to rely on your power of attorney. I do recommend that people still draft the document and get it signed, witnessed, and notarized, but you don't have to go from the way you're managing your finances right now straight into having somebody else manage all your finances for you. What are some good options? One good option is direct deposit and automatic bill pay. Social Security typically wants to do direct deposit, and many pensions and other forms of income that you receive later in life do as well. Automatic bill pay is set up through your bank. You tell your bank every month, please send a certain amount of money, and that can cover your mortgage payment, your rent payment. If you're on a budget plan with your utilities, you can plan in advance for the same amount to be sent every month. That can be a very good way to manage your finances. In fact, I was a reluctant convert. I tried this myself after someone I care about really encouraged me to. It's incredibly convenient. So I do recommend at least learning about it. Consider trying it if you haven't already. Again, that is direct deposit and automatic bill pay. I did want to compare it with something that's slightly different, and that is auto debit. That's where you let a company that bills you access to your account and to basically draw that money out of your account. That you need to use with caution, because what I talked to you about first, when you instruct your bank to send out the money, that is very easy to end if something goes wrong. If you're online, it's a couple clicks of a mouse. If you are setting it up in person or by phone, it's usually one telephone call to have that ended. If you have a vendor that is authorized to debit your account and you need to stop that, you can revoke authorization, but it takes a bit longer. And also, we have seen incredibly dishonest procedures sometimes used by vendors. So make sure if you're going to try that, you'd use trusted vendors only, maybe like your water company, certainly not some company that you just discovered online. Another way to deal with finances is have a trusted family member or friend sit down with you twice a month. They can help review all your mail and confirm all bills are paid. So if you're getting to a point where you're feeling like maybe you're forgetting things from time to time, again, that can be a good option for a lot of people. Another option to help manage your finances and your financial relationships is third-party notification. Third-party notification is set up, for example, you can tell your landlord, if my rent ever doesn't get paid, please call my daughter at this number. That can be very helpful because you may go into the hospital and the only reason you've missed your rent payment is you're in the hospital right now. So that is very helpful. Landlords are required in Virginia by law to allow you to set up third-party notification if you choose to do so. Many utility companies also offer it as a service to their customers because it also helps them. If the only reason you're not making a payment is you're having a health issue or something else, getting paid on time is helpful to them and to you. So those are some options. And before we move on, let me talk briefly. A lot of folks come into my office and say, I just want my family member to be able to write checks for me. Should I make them a co-owner on my bank account? And the answer is usually no. You usually do not want to make a trusted family member or friend a co-owner of your bank account. That can affect your estate planning. So you may have a plan in your will about where you want the funds to go. You may be changing that by accident by making someone a co-owner. Also, I've had situations where a client shares their bank account with someone else, puts them on there as a co-owner, and then a creditor of the co-owner will try to seize the money in the account because it looks to an outside observer like that's just as much their money. So that can be an issue as well. So it's generally not advisable. Instead, if someone is your agent under a power of attorney, they'll have power to manage that account for you, and it will be very clear that they are not an owner, they are your agent. So I do think that's a better way to handle that situation. Some banks will allow you to put someone as an authorized signer. A challenge is an authorized signer means that person can sign checks for you, but they're not a co-owner of the funds. An issue that we're starting to hear about in other parts of the country is that they're then charging the fees they would for a business account for that. So it's probably better to go with a power of attorney in that situation, but you could discuss with the bank whether there's an option to make someone just a signer, not an owner, and if there would be additional fees. So power of attorney, this is a document that plans for your finances. Typically, folks are thinking about this in the event of a disability. So what is a power of attorney? Let's go over that generally. So a power of attorney is a document that gives another person power to stand in your shoes and make the types of decisions that you would normally make for yourself. They can, the power of attorney can be as detailed as you want it to. Most people have a general power of attorney, which means that person can do basically anything you could have, which means they can buy things, mortgage things, pay off loans, take care of court cases, get into that bank account like we needed to, lots of things they can do. You can have a very limited power of attorney. It's not really what we're talking about today, but just to give you an example, if you are serving overseas in Iraq and you need to sell your house, you could appoint your spouse your limited power of attorney just for the purpose of that house sale. So that would be an example of a limited power of attorney. Doesn't come up too often in my practice because what most people are trying to do is plan in the event that they're not able to make decisions for themselves. A durable power of attorney survives disability. So a regular power of attorney, if you should become disabled, it doesn't work anymore. A durable power of attorney, if you become disabled, does allow that agent to continue to help you. That is the type that almost everybody wants because that's actually the situation they're most concerned about. What happens if I'm in a coma and can't manage my finances, for example? It does survive disability. It's important to note that it does not survive death. No power of attorney will continue to work after you pass away. You can also revoke a power of attorney as long as you're competent. Revoke basically means you're firing your agent under the power of attorney. They would no longer have any powers. As long as you're competent, you can do that yourself. If you're no longer competent, it will likely require court intervention. That's something that from time to time has to be done. You thought you could trust your agent. It turns out you can't. It's a good idea in that situation to have an attorney help you. You can get the agent served with a copy of the notice. And we also recommend immediately faxing copies to all of your banks to make sure that they know as well that that person's no longer in power. Now, there's two kinds of power of attorney. There's an immediate effect power of attorney, and there's a springing power of attorney. An immediate effect attorney takes effect immediately, just like it sounds. As soon as you sign and have witnessed and notarized the document in my office, your agent could walk out of that office, go down the street and handle your finances for you. They could pull money out of your bank, sell or mortgage your house, anything you need them to do. So there's pros and cons about that. The positive thing about it is it can be very helpful. If what you want is immediate day-to-day assistance with your finances, this is the type of power of attorney for you. It also can be helpful because it can be a gradual transition. So you could draft this document, sign it now, and then have somebody help you from time to time, maybe do that process we talked about with reviewing your bills, helping with the mail. And then if you get to a point where you need more help than that, that person can help you even more. And it can be a very gradual transition until you're in a position where you're no longer able to make those decisions at all. And that person has just gradually stepped into the role. There's no hard conversation where you have to say, right now the power is switching. Those are some of the reasons a lot of folks like this. One downside, though, is it can be problematic if your agent misuses your funds at a time when you're also competent and also managing those same funds. It can be hard to kind of pick through and say, wait a second, who did this over here and who did this other thing over here? Let's look then at the other kind of power of attorney. This is a springing power of attorney. A springing power of attorney takes effect when some specific action happens, some specific condition is met. Now, you can write these to say whatever you want. If you wanted to, you could say, as soon as the Cubs win the World Series, this person is my agent. It's fun. It's not particularly useful. The way we typically write them is after two doctors say that you no longer are competent to make financial decisions for yourself, then your agent can step in and take on all of those financial decisions. So what are the pros and cons of that? Well, one of the pros is it offers a lot of clarity as to who is responsible for certain decisions. What are the cons? Well, there is going to be a hard conversation. Instead of that gradual transition, there will be a time when your agent has to sit down and say, the time has come. Two of your doctors say you no longer can make financial decisions for yourself, and I'll be making them from now on. Also, there's no immediate power to the agent. So if you're experiencing inconvenience, what you really want to do is just send someone else down to the bank to handle your business for you. This is not the power of attorney for you. So as we've seen, there's pros and cons to both kinds. And I write both in my practice. You'll find some attorneys feel very strongly about one or the other. I find that for my clients, there are people that immediate effect works best for, and there are people that springing works best for. So we talk through that and we make a decision about which one we want. Now, picking your agent for a power of attorney, one of the more important decisions you'll make. Who do you want to have be your agent? That's the person that will manage all your finances for you. Certainly needs to be someone that you trust. Ideally, someone who has shown an interest in your well-being. So probably not the best job for your nephew that hasn't talked to you in 2 to 5 years. But someone who has been interested and involved might be a good choice. Someone who manages money well. Now, we're not saying that you need to pick someone who is wealthy. We're talking about, do they use the funds they have access to well? Do bills get paid? Do priority expenses get covered before fun expenses? Someone who's honest. Someone who has no history of taking advantage of other people. And someone who has no history of abusing animals. Now, isn't that last one kind of strange? The reason is that research has shown that people who abuse animals at a younger age often go on to abuse senior citizens when they are older and less able to take care of themselves. So that is a warning sign that we can use when we're trying to pick a good agent. Now, who might you choose from? A lot of my clients show up and the only person they have even considered is 1 or 2 of their adult children. But there are other options as well. If your spouse is competent, they might be a great option. A trusted longtime friend, siblings, adult children, nieces, nephews, or other adult relatives, even a grandchild as long as they're an adult. All of these people can be good options. If you are in a position where you truly have no one else available that you trust, occasionally a nonprofit organization can provide a volunteer. That's pretty rare though, because unfortunately there aren't a lot of volunteers able to do that. If you're in a position like that, Adult Protective Services does offer some volunteer payees for people who have no other safe option. Something to consider here is for most people, you're going to have someone trustworthy in your life, and that's great. If you have no one that's truly trustworthy and you have not yet found a nonprofit organization that can help, I do recommend that people wait, because you are giving someone effectively the keys to your bank account. And if you can't trust someone to do that, you may be better off with no one than a truly terrible option. But again, that's a pretty extreme circumstance. Most of us have somebody that would be a good option. We also encourage people to have a backup agent listed. And so you could put, for example, your spouse, and if your spouse can't do it, maybe they're too sick to do it, for example, then you have another family member or trusted friend that would step into the role. So a backup is a great option. What are the duties of an agent? So let's look first of all at the big picture, because I think this is the most important thing to take away from my portion of the presentation. Someone who holds power of attorney holds that power for you and not over you. They are your agent. They're called your attorney, in fact. That's just their fancy name. They're your agent. And compare that, for example, to a real estate agent. A real estate agent figures out what you might like, shows you some options. You choose which house you're going to buy. We would be very surprised if the realtor took your money and bought the house she thought was best for you, because that's not how agency works. The same thing is true for agents under a power of attorney or attorneys in fact. I say that because I see a lot of misunderstanding. I'll have clients that say, there's nothing I can do at this point. She has power over me. She has power of attorney. There certainly is a lot you can do. If you're competent, you can give them new instructions. And if they still don't follow those instructions, or if you're just ready to call it quits, you can fire them. As we talked about, you can revoke. They also only have the powers you specify. Again, most people give very general, handle everything for me, but occasionally there may be a special situation in your life that we have to write the power of attorney to address that specifically. So you might say, for example, they can't sell the family home without first offering it to a family member, or something along those lines. Now compare all of this to adult guardianship. We talked about that very briefly. Adult guardianship is a situation where typically there is no power of attorney set up, and the family had to go in front of a judge and say, we'd like to be able to make both the financial and the personal decisions for this person. In that situation, a guardian is over you. They may also have very specific roles. Guardianships can come in the general, they can do everything for you type of guardianship. There also are more limited forms of guardianship. But that is a situation where you have somebody they're able to tell you you can't do something like that. I should be clear, I am very much summarizing guardianship. It is far more nuanced than that. But that is the contrast there. Again, your power of attorney, your agent there, is holding that power for you. They have to act in accordance with your wishes. Or if your wishes are unknown, for example, maybe you're in a coma or something like that, or if you're incompetent, then they have to act in your best interests. They can never change that and start acting in their own interests with your money and property. They have to keep very good records. They have to be able to provide an accounting. So saving receipts is very important. Also, accounting for you. So I've seen really good accountings on Excel spreadsheets on the computer, but I've also seen really good accountings in spiral notebooks with all the receipts then get put in a folder. But either way works. You just have to keep good records. Blue Ridge also has free books available. We have green books available for people who are serving as agent under a power of attorney. It's put out by the government, and it's helpful in understanding your duties and responsibilities. Something that anyone would like, they can feel free to contact me, and I'd be happy to mail you that book. You can also build additional layers of protection into a power of attorney document. So you can appoint, for example, one of your children to be agent, and then have a second child appointed to review that person's work. It can be each month. It could be every 3 months. What are the benefits to building this extra layer of protection? First of all, it catches errors. I think all of us probably at some point in our life have made a small error in the checkbook. So it catches that early on. It also can reduce temptation to misuse funds. Most people are going to deal with that temptation honestly. A few people won't, but it does reduce the temptation if somebody knows that another family member or trusted friend is going to be reviewing their work by the end of the month or by the end of the quarter. If there is an unfortunate situation where there is misused funds, it catches it earlier. It's much better to catch the problem when it's a small amount of money that has gone missing, as opposed to it's been going on for years. There may be a large sum of money missing at that point. Also, even if everyone involved is honest, there can sometimes be family dynamics where people have the perception that someone might misuse funds. And if you have different people involved, someone checking the work, that can go a long way to comforting those family members that may not be on good terms with the other family members, just to assure them nothing is going wrong here. That can be very helpful. So adult guardianship is rarely necessary with good planning and proper legal tools in place. One tool to have in place is a financial power of attorney. Now let's talk briefly about representative payee. Representative payee is a person who manages Social Security funds. They are important because Social Security does not recognize agents with power of attorney or guardianship. They only recognize a representative payee. Fortunately, though, power of attorney, your agent under power of attorney can apply to become representative payee, and it's typically a fairly simple process. Now, a lot of folks on the call might think to themselves, I've never heard of anyone having that problem. The reason it doesn't come up very often is that Social Security now gives almost all beneficiaries their benefits by direct deposit. And then when you have a general power of attorney, that agent can manage the bank account that the money is going into. So it typically doesn't become an issue until there's a problem. So 1 month the Social Security check just doesn't arrive and you don't know why. When you call in, they say, oh, we're only going to talk to you if you're representative payee. So you'd have to fill out the form at that point. So some people like to go ahead and get that form turned in as well, just in case there ever is some type of a hiccup with the benefits or other issue that needs to be worked through. Also wanted to briefly talk about wills. The wills are important because they plan for property and money after death. Again, we talked about briefly, but power of attorney ends at your death, so you do need to have both documents in place, because a will is what happens after you pass away. Power of attorney is all your financial decisions up to that point. So that's also very important. We did have a frequently asked question, where should you store your will? And the reason that this is important is your executor, that's your person who carries out your will, they actually have to probate your original will, meaning they have to find that original copy and carry it down to the courthouse. That's why in Virginia, a lot of attorneys will put the original in a special case, make it very obvious that that's the original so that it doesn't get mislaid or mixed in with other photocopies. Only in rare circumstances, like if you can prove there was a house fire, can you use a copy. Which means it's not a great idea to put your will in your safe deposit box because your agent can't get in there. Your executor can't get in there until they probate the will, and they can't probate the will because it's stuck in the safe deposit box, which gives you this chicken or the egg problem that you can avoid for your heirs. You can put it somewhere else that's in a safe place and make sure that at least your executor knows where it is so that they can get it if it's needed. Couple other frequently asked questions that we had for this presentation is, when should you do your power of attorney? I recommend people do it as soon as they can. I think it's a good idea to do this. You can have, if you're not totally sure you're ready for some of that power right now, you can at least have a springing power of attorney. I think that's a good option. You could have somebody in their 20s, 30s, 40s. They might be interested in doing that now. Certainly don't wait. I think Natalie briefly alluded to, you sometimes have people that they don't think about it until they're in the hospital. You can do one in the hospital. The downside to doing it in the hospital is most of us are not at our best when we're in the hospital. And so you may be able to think through these decisions better if you're not under the stress of being in a hospital. It also, as Natalie mentioned, can be hard to get witnesses in. And witnesses have to feel comfortable that you're in a good state of mind to sign those documents. And that can be kind of hard to decide if somebody might be in the hospital, they might be medicated. All of us are under stress. We're certainly out of our normal living situation. That can make you seem less competent than you actually are. And it can also occasionally make you less competent than you actually are. So all of those reasons, better to take care of that earlier, but certainly if you are in a situation where you're stuck in the hospital, we will work with you. We'll work with Natalie and others to try to help you. It's just a great idea if you can take care of those documents now when things are going pretty well as opposed to waiting till later. So again, just to wrap up, Blue Ridge Legal Services provides free legal services to older adults, 60 plus, and also younger folks who have lower incomes. Our number is here on the screen, 540-433-1830. Call Monday through Thursday, 9 a.m. to 12:30. So I am ready to take questions if folks have any.
Thank you.
Okay, Sarah, thanks for that awesome information. I don't see any questions on chat. Does anybody want to ask something? We have a few minutes.
Just want to say thank you again.
You're welcome. Thank you guys for being here.
Thank you. That was really informative. I appreciate it.
Okay, well, folks, if you don't have any questions now, we're not going to hang out online and take up any more time. Sarah and Natalie, thank you so much for your time and your expertise. We appreciate you being involved with VPAS and working with us to get this information out. We appreciate it very much. So,
Absolutely.
okay, well, folks, I think I'm going to say enjoy your day. Thank you again. And if you have any questions or need any follow-up information, you can contact myself, VPAS, Sarah at Blue Ridge Legal Services, or Natalie at the hospital. We're happy to help in any way we can and look forward to sharing our wealth of information with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.